Hi, everyone. Thanks for watching or listening, whichever one you decided to do. Uh, just want to clarify that this was recorded before Army got a bowl game. So if you want to leave a comment about Army being in a bowl game, the reason I said that Army isn't is because they weren't at the time. So thank you and please enjoy.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Heels on the Court. Hey, Sam, what's going on?
Not too much. Just ready for the college football playoff that I think is a complete joke. So that's always fun.
College, college,
Yeah.
college. I just got off the phone talking with a college. Well, he just graduated this year, a former college student, and we talked a little bit about college sports. But man, I miss college. I miss college sports. I miss a lot. But we're here to talk about football, college
Mm-hmm.
football. So many things are wrong with college football nowadays. I don't know. This is one of them. What's your pet peeve of the day, Sam?
How about 2-8 South Carolina getting a bowl game over Army, who was Army football. We like to do our research before.
Clearly.
Say stuff. Uh,
Talk.
I want to say
Hey,
they had
did
8 wins. 9 wins, 9-2.
uh
So South Carolina 2-8 going to a bowl game. Army 9-2 sitting at home watching. I don't even know what to say about that.
classic.
That's so
Uh
unbelievably stupid.
I
Makes no
mean,
sense.
that's classic and with everything else, like college football playoff 2020, surprisingly predictable. Alabama, Clemson, who were they? You know, like it's like I just, I don't even know what to say about it anymore. Um, it's just annoying. I mean, if Clemson and Alabama end up meeting in the national championship, this will be their fifth playoff meeting in the past 6 years.
I think it'll be the least viewed national championship since the start of the BCS era, going through the college football playoff era. Um,
It's just, ugh.
we're bored. We're bored. We're tired of it.
I'm so bored. I'm so bored. And I mean, I was just happy that the Buffs. I'm repping my Buffs t-shirt today. I'm just happy that they're in a bowl game because I mean, can we talk about the Pac-12 championship for a second and
Yeah, sure.
how gross that was with I mean, okay. So USC was supposed to play Wash U, University of Washington.
University of Washington. Yeah,
Yeah,
WashU's in
sorry,
St. Louis.
in St. Louis. Yeah. So they're supposed to play University of Washington, and they couldn't because University of Washington didn't have enough players on scholarship playing due to COVID. I guess some of their players got COVID or something happened. I don't know all the details of it, but they couldn't play because of that. So USC ended up playing Oregon, and thank God Oregon won. Um, but it's just I don't know. It's just dumb. Everything that's going on with sports right now is so dumb. Um, I just couldn't deal with that, especially since USC, their football team has not. I don't know. I mean, their record was fine. I mean, we were tied with them, but I just can't handle um college sports right now and how football is being handled specifically. I mean, yeah, I don't have anything else to say about that. I just wanted to bring it up because it was super disappointing. But
Well, it's
but
such a
yeah.
weird way to decide. So USC can still play, but they have to play Oregon. So like, what was Oregon even doing there? It was such a weird situation.
It's because of
Um,
Uncle Phil.
I mean, don't you think that maybe it should have just been USC's title? I mean, as much as we hate USC and our bias will show on this podcast, but right? I just don't really understand this. Okay, so this team can't play, so you're going to play another team? Like, what?
I think USC should have played Colorado.
Well, but
And
that tiebreaker was already decided, so you can't go that route. I see what you tried to do
yes, we
there, but
can.
no, we cannot go that route. But it's just this like bizarre, weird year stuff that really
Yeah.
doesn't make any sense.
I
I'm
mean, I
over
get
it.
I get that it was from like a money perspective, like, you get the game on the television, there's a TV contract and blah 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 blah. But, as much as I hate USC, go Bruins, go UCLA, yeah, they should have just had the title. If Washington can't play, then that's a forfeit, right? That's how sports work. You don't just
I
get
just
like
can't. I can't
another
imagine
team
just
to
like
sub in.
having been in collegiate athletics. I can't imagine losing. Okay, you're not going to the Pac-12 championship game, and then you get a call that you're gonna go. It would just feel so weird, and the fact that they won that game really says a lot because you're in such a mindset when you get excluded from these things. It's like shifting on to the next stage of life, whether it's going back to
Yeah,
class for a couple of months and then you start practice again. Like, I mean, obviously they were going to play in a bowl game no matter what, but
right.
it just is such a bizarre thing. I was a part of one team that should have made it to the NCAA tournament and didn't, and then part of a second team that should have made it to the NCAA tournament but went to the NIT instead. And your whole focus is just shifted, and it's
Yeah.
hard to keep concentration. It's like even as a staff member, you're just like NIT, really, um,
Yeah.
but it's extra practice. It's extra practice, and that's the thing that's so important here and so invaluable. You can't get that back. That's why bowl games are so important. That's why reaching the NIT in basketball is so important because once your season ends, you can't practice anymore for whatever the designated period of time is.
Right.
So if you get in now, you get an extra 8 weeks of practice in, and that's what matters. So if you're an NIT team in basketball, you're playing it for the extra practice. Yeah, you want to win, but it's not the same as the NCAA tournament. It's just not.
No,
And
it's not.
and and then if you're playing in a small bowl, the whole purpose is really just to get the extra practice in. And that's why we've seen the ratings decline so much in these smaller bowls as the years have gone by. It's just like having players not play in the bowl games. And so you're seeing underclassmen playing instead. You're not seeing
Yeah.
the best players playing, which I think is a really good business decision for those players that are going to the NFL. But it's harming college football. And I think one of the big things is the college football playoff versus the BCS. It's really taken away from the prestige of a lot of bowls. Winning a bowl game doesn't really seem to matter much anymore, um,
No.
unless you're a small program. And 7-5 is really good for you, which great. There are a lot of programs like that. But I just don't really understand this 4-team playoff. How can the NCAA have its biggest sport not fit the outline they have for what counts as an NCAA championship? So, like,
Be-
I mean, how your biggest revenue maker, really, your biggest sport, the most watched sport that you have, and it doesn't count as an NCAA championship. Like,
no.
what? What? How are you allowing that to go on? It just really doesn't make any sense to me.
There's no respect and there never has been, and I think that it's fun that we've tried to uh like manifest like respect in this whole like FBS like bubble kind of a thing, but it's just like nobody really cares. if I mean, and that's become very apparent this year that nobody cares um what happens as long as you're making money. And I think that's why we see all of these teams that like every single year, like, you know, Notre Dame and Ohio State and Clemson and Alabama. And it's just like they're the money makers because they're good at football, and you know their ratings were high, and you've got those, you know, rivalries going on. But it's just like it gets so boring. I mean, it was the same thing with the Warriors and the Cavs when they just kept going to the NBA championships. It's like I got bored like
Yeah,
super quickly. And that's
I
what gets people to think that these things are rigged. I'm just saying.
and they're not at all.
Right.
What it is though is it's the selection committee is a group of old people that are, good old Southerners, and they want to pick the schools from the South. The SEC is the best, and I mean, I'm sorry, Ole Miss, I'm sorry, but it's just not that good. Maybe there was a period where it was really that good, but like Ole Miss played Cal twice and lost. Um, the only team that seems to consistently beat Pac-12 teams, still even play Pac-12 teams, is Alabama. And Alabama is on a whole nother level. I'll admit it.
Yeah.
But what I've noticed though is just this. Like when I was at Ole Miss the first time they played Cal, and then there was a year in between. I graduated, and then the second game happened. So the first game in Berkeley, that was the first time in Ole Miss football history that they played a Pac-12 team. And I'm not saying like going back to when a team was in the original Pac-8 and then when it expanded to Pac-10 and Pac-12. I mean, they never played a team that is currently a member of the Pac-12 until 2016 or 17, somewhere in there. It's 2017. So that's ridiculous. Like, what is the incentive to play teams out of your conference right now? There's none. There's no reason to make your schedule any better than it is, because all you have to do is pretend like your conference is the best, apparently, be on the East Coast. The selection committee goes to bed before they even watch the games on the West Coast. And then they look at the scores and go based off of the scores. That's what happens. And so I'm
Yeah.
serious. I mean, that really is what
No,
happens.
I know. I just think it's funny.
Yeah. So it's like play. So let's get some good non-conference games in. And there's no reason the SEC plays one less game in conference than almost every other conference. I think it's the ACC that also plays one less game, but I could be wrong on that. So don't don't quote me. But I know for a
I'm
fact that
quoting.
the SEC the SEC plays one less game. So what they do is they put in two FCS opponents and say our schedule is too hard to play anyone other than FCS schools. No, it's not. It's really not. It's really not that hard. You get a couple of hard games, just like you get in every other conference. You get a few hard games. Now the Pac-12's been down for a little while, but the Big Ten's really good. You
Yeah,
get a couple of hard games every year. The ACC is really good. You get some hard games every year. And I think we need to give the AAC some credit too, because they have a couple of quality teams. Their schedule isn't tough enough, and that's I think the big reason why expansion is so necessary. To go to 8 teams, there's two reasons to go to 8 teams. To me, you got to go to 8 teams because that meets the qualification for an NCAA championship, and I want football championships to count towards that total. And the second is we can finally get some at-large teams and see what would happen if we had all the big, if we had the Power Five conference teams in, and then we had 3 teams in. You format it however you have to format it with 8 teams, and we can finally see what would happen if, a few years ago when UCF had that really good run, we could see what would have happened, but we don't know. And I'll parallel it to the NCAA tournament in basketball because I think what we're talking about here is viewership is so important and revenue is so
yeah,
important.
And I was looking before we started, and the Rose Bowl ratings when it's not one of the semifinal games has just plummeted since 2000. Since 2014, when the college football playoff started. So
Yeah.
before that, from 2000 to 2013, crazy viewership in like 20, sometimes 30 million. Now it's down to like 15 to 17, sometimes a little bit lower than that in the millions. Um, but the NCAA tournament, they expanded to 68 teams. And what's the reason they expanded to 68 teams? Why would they put two play-in games for 11 seeds from Power 5 conferences? Money, right?
Duh.
So
More
I don't.
more eyes on the whole thing.
Right. So if you were really expanding it and trying to make it fair to 68 teams, you would probably say, let's add in four more 16s or 15s or something like that, right?
Right.
But obviously you're not going to do that, because what is that
No.
going to do for viewership? We've had one 16 seed win in the entire history of the tournament. So of course they're going to put two 11s and have USC play Ohio State or something like that in
Right.
the basketball tournament. So from a marketing and business perspective, what do you have to say about all of that?
Oh yeah, it's all about the money. I mean, if it's the whole saying of, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Well, if it ain't broke, hey, why don't we make it a little bit more interesting, a bigger pool, reach more people who probably wouldn't be watching in the first place, and then we'll go ahead and make more money on it. That
Mm-hmm.
way, we didn't really fix anything or change anything. We just expanded our viewership audience, which, hey, I think is great. I mean, everybody wants to see their teams make it into some kind of championship tournament, whether that be the NCAA or, what have you with football, basketball. I mean, doesn't matter. Everybody always gets excited. I know I do, and I get obnoxious about it and like go all out. Um, so we're all guilty of feeding into it. What I don't necessarily like is the way that everything is being chosen, specifically within college football. Like you said, it's just a bunch of old like white guys who like don't even watch the games on the West Coast and just like choose based off of score. And while there is something to be said about the talent on these teams and everything, you know, there is an element of chance. And I think that that happens in a lot of these games. Skill is everything, but there's just that element of luck that you don't know what's going to happen. We have seen upsets in every single sport there is. Upsets happen, whatever. There could be betting odds, even though I'm not a huge gambler and I can't really speak on sports betting in general. But it, to me, it's just like I would rather see, and correct me if I'm wrong or if my opinion is off, I would rather see a really good football game instead of one that's just like been done before. You know what I mean? Like if a team lost but they had a better team just overall, I would rather see them go into some kind of championship or whatever and play another really good team than just like keep getting these same games over and over and over again. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
I don't know.
we get the
I,
same
I
game. We get the same game in the same season sometimes. We've seen Clemson and Notre Dame this year 2 times already,
yeah.
and we have the potential to see it a third time.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, even going back to the BCS era, you had that one year where LSU played Alabama twice. I don't, I don't understand that. I want to know what the ratings were on that one. 2000, because that was 2012. 24 million people watched that. That's actually one of the lower ones from that era. It's in the bottom three or so. Um, but it's really really just like we saw Alabama play LSU. You answered that question already. like
Yeah.
I get, you know, you win a game that it's the better team that day. I get that. That doesn't mean that's who's
Right.
going to win every single time, but that's part of sports. Is just you play the game, and the winner is the winner, and that's
Yeah.
it. I don't understand rematches. I don't want to see a rematch. The rest of the country is completely disinterested. Um,
Right. And it's I mean like I don't know, like I guess I understand the idea behind rematches. You know, like I understand the revenue driving like concept behind rematches, but it's just not the case. It's just not. Um I'm bored of it. Clearly you're bored of it. I have a ton of friends and family who are bored of it. So I don't like I want something new and refreshing, and I mean I I don't necessarily know if there is a fix. I mean, what's your take on that? I know that with the BCS era, I mean, it was more of a movement towards something resembling equality, and like it just there was an increase in bowl games, and I mean there was SEC dominance and everything like that, but I don't know. I don't know how this is going to be fixed.
they were at least pretending to be objective during that era, using computers, and maybe the formula that they were using was a little skewed towards certain parts of the country. But you still had some level of objectivity to it, where
Yeah.
it wasn't selected by. I mean, who cares what this little group of people? I've always hated selection committees, but the reason it works in the NCAA tournament. Hopefully, I don't end up coaching one day, and then they have a soundbite of me saying I hate the selection committee. But
They
what
definitely will.
they will. But what makes it work is that you have automatic bids.
Yeah.
You win your conference championship, you're in. So that's what makes it
Yep.
work, is that it takes out this level of favoritism, where we don't see the same teams win the conference championship every year in basketball. Uh, Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. I guess it really just depends on the conference and the stretch of years that you're in. But then we get to see, and most of the time, what we get to see in the tournament is a team from a Power Five conference kicking the crap out of a smaller school, but at least we know. And then look what
Uh,
happens when it doesn't, and UMBC beats Virginia. That was mayhem. That was craziness. And
yeah.
not only did it set up one of the most viewer friendly Final Fours of all time, because what happened is Virginia loses to UMBC. They're the first number one seed ever to lose, and in hundreds of games. And then Virginia goes and wins the national championship the next year. That's such a good storyline.
Yeah.
Why, like, what? How? Why are you not? It's not even. It's your formula. The NCAA. I'm talking to the NCAA. It's your formula. You created. You created this whole bracketology thing that everybody loves so much. Just use
Yeah.
it. Just use it in football. You use it in literally every other sport. I don't understand. And I get though that playing more football games is dangerous, and I understand that.
But
Cut
America
out two
loves it.
non-conference games, right? Cut out one
Yes.
non-conference game.
Yes.
I'm not saying to expand it to 16. I'm just 8. Just make it qualify. And then once we do that, then we'll have a better experience as fans. I just it just needs to be fixed. That's the solution. Go
Cut
to
out
8.
conferences in general.
I don't
No
know how that would
conferences.
work. But yeah, then
All
everybody
just
would go
football teams.
they'd all go undefeated just playing the worst possible competition, because that's what's getting rewarded right now. That's
Yeah.
what gets rewarded. If you look at Alabama and their run, and yes, they have beaten some really good teams early on in the season over the years, but
Well, it's
in the
11 and
middle,
0.
yeah, but look, in the middle of their schedule, right? They're playing some FCS school.
Yeah.
Why? I mean, there are teams in the Pac-12 that in their history have never played an FCS school. Uh,
Yeah.
we should you should be there should be some kind of reward for that. And then also, why is it that when a Big Ten team loses, that's the end of their season, but an SEC team loses, they're still in the top 5? I don't get that. Why, if like, okay, in a year when Ohio State and Penn State are really good, let's use them as an example, okay?
Yeah.
And Ohio State's 1, Penn State's 3. Ohio State will beat Penn State. Penn State's done. Forget it. Penn State beats Ohio State. Ohio State's done. Forget it. But Alabama plays. We'll forget this year with Clemson and Notre Dame because this year is just a complete mess. Um, but Alabama plays LSU. That knocks one of the two out of the conference championship game, and you get rewarded for that. Like there was a year where one of the two teams lost in the regular season, didn't play in the SEC championship. Then the winner of that lost in the SEC championship game to Alabama. And then I want to say it was Georgia who got in to the playoff.
I believe you're right.
Well, how? They didn't even play in. They didn't even play in the conference championship game, let alone win it. And I remember having this conversation at a team dinner, and I just got so much hate for it because I went to an SEC school. But
but that's why though. It's because it's SEC football. That's the only reason why that's allowed, is because of the name alone. SEC. America. Like, I mean, it's like synonymous. Like, you think of football, you think of SEC. You know, I think of football, I think of the NFL. But a lot of America is like, oh, football, SEC. Like, I went to college in Colorado where, I mean, this year we were a good football team, but all 4 years of football were, except for 2016, which was the 1 year that I studied abroad and did not get to go to any football games, we sucked. Other than 2016, we were awful. And I had so many people in my sorority, people around campus, friends, whatever. They were all Alabama fans. And I'm just like, what the hell? Like, most of these people, by the way, were not from Alabama. I think maybe one of them was. Everybody else is a West Coast person. Why are you not a fan of the Pac-12? Because nobody cares about the Pac-12. Nobody cares about the Big Ten. Nobody cares about the ACC. Nobody cares about whatever. It's all about SEC football. I'm sorry, but it's true. And that's something that also needs to be fixed. But that's changing the mindset of hundreds of millions of people. So I don't know how that is also going to work.
No, because the SEC should be represented. That's what I'm saying. So the SEC should get a team every year. The champion should get in. But so should the Pac-12 champion. So should the Big Ten champion. So should the ACC champion. That's what I'm getting at here. It's not.
No. I know.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's just like having another SEC team be rewarded for something that doesn't necessarily, like, there's so many other teams that were probably had a great year as well, but nobody cares.
And it's just not doing the sport any good. You're not doing yourself any favors by having the format that you currently have. I don't understand it. So I mean, I really don't understand it. And when you look at the ratings, I mean, it's mediocre, really. I mean, I guess that's subjective, but it has declined. Like the first one, people loved it. The 2014-15 season, 34 million people watched Ohio State and Oregon. So look at that. Not one SEC team there. That's the most viewed bowl game in the college football playoff history. And I think it actually might be the most viewed bowl game in the history of college football. Actually, it is not. Texas USC was 35.6 million in 2006, which was an incredible game. I'm sure you remember that. Couldn't speak for a second. But so it's the second highest viewed national championship game, second highest viewed bowl game. And then from there, we went down to 26 million, Alabama and Clemson. And then the Cotton Bowl was only 18 million, which again, I mean, not only, right? Because that's pretty crazy viewership for amateur sports. But when you
Yeah.
think about the scope of things and how much bigger it could get, you'll see where I'm getting here. Then
Yeah.
the Orange Bowl semifinal was 15.7. Um, and then the following year, 25 million in the championship. Clemson, Alabama again. Alabama, Georgia was 28 million. And then it went down to 25 million when we got Clemson and Alabama again. And then LSU and Clemson was 25 million. So what you're looking at here, I think, is when we get that national championship game, viewership's going to decline this year. Unless, I mean, maybe we get a different matchup, but if it's Alabama Clemson, I don't think people are going to watch it.
But counterpoint, just playing devil's
Okay.
advocate, but because we're in the pandemic and
Mm-hmm.
everybody was complaining that we've got zero sports, nothing's going on, we want our sports back, do you think viewership is going to skyrocket?
No, because it really hasn't in other sports. Uh,
True.
Baseball is a
True.
relatively down year. I don't think the World Series was viewed that much, was it?
But baseball
Um,
is dying.
Baseball is dying. There's literally nothing else on TV, and nobody watched it. So,
Yeah.
um, I just don't think so. I think that there are other things. People, a majority of this country has moved on. Let's remember that too. Uh,
Yeah.
a
Yeah,
majority of this
that's true.
country doesn't think we're living in a pandemic right now.
Maybe it's just because we're both in California and we're like still on lockdown.
Yeah, it's constant shutdowns and whatever, and not getting political, but that's our life versus what's going on. So I think for us, it's like, yeah, well, of course I'm going to watch it because I'm not doing anything, and also we do this, but um, but it's just not. It's just that people are going to do other things, uh,
Yeah.
and and
But I mean, that's the whole reason they moved the Rose Bowl to AT&T Stadium this year.
mm-hmm.
Like this, I mean, just so that people can come and see the football being played. And I mean, yeah, okay, sure. Number 1 Alabama versus number 4 Notre Dame. Um, but it's just kind of like Rose Bowl's always been in Pasadena. Like that's my childhood. You just ripped away my childhood,
Well,
NCAA.
my childhood got ripped away when the Rose Bowl wasn't guaranteed to be Pac-12 Big Ten anymore.
Okay,
Uh,
yeah, that too. But then I came to terms with that, and now it's like been ripped away,
okay, but
like
it's one
officially.
year, and it's really kind of technically the second Cotton Bowl, but it's just it's just so frustrating when I look at these when I look at the BCS era and you look at the viewership. It's crazy. BCS National Championship 2009 2010, Alabama, Texas, 30 million. Rose Bowl, um, Ohio State and Oregon, 24 million. Sugar Bowl, Florida, Cincinnati, 15 million. So you're talking about that's a lot. That's a lot. Whereas you look at anything outside of the first college football playoff, you're looking at those semifinals having like 18 million, 15 million. Okay. And then after that, the Rose Bowl dropped down to 13. The Fiesta Bowl was only at 9, and then Sugar at 8, Peach Bowl at 5. Like, people just aren't watching bowl games anymore. And I used to
Yeah,
love bowl games growing up. It's just ridiculous that
yeah,
we've
it,
either make your championship matter or make the bowl games matter. It's just one of the two has to connect.
yeah, yeah. I agree. I mean, it's just a little disappointing, just with I don't know. The Rose Bowl is what we used to do New Year's Day. That's watch the Rose Bowl, and now it's just kind of like, do I want to? Uh,
If your if your
like,
school's not in it, do you really? Eh,
do I
it
care? Like,
it's
if my conference isn't in it, do I care?
yeah.
I don't like.
I mean, no, I personally don't. I mean, I don't want to watch some of the other stuff that's going on. I
No,
don't.
I'm gonna
Um,
stream the what is it? Is it the Valero Bowl? The Fiesta Bowl? Whoever CU is whatever CU is
I
playing,
don't
they're
know what
playing
they got into,
Texas. I don't
but
know. It's somewhere. But I mean, I'm gonna be streaming that stuff, but I mean, other than that, like I don't even really think that I'm gonna be streaming that too hard. Maybe I'll just check the score every now and then. And that's what's sad. That's why college sports like gotta get revamped. I'm all about college sports. I love college sports, but this formula is not gonna work much longer, NCAA. So let's switch it up.
okay. So I talked about my dream scenario for the NCAA football championship. What do you think is the dream for you? What How would you change it?
Out, like I said, get rid of all the conferences, every man for himself. Um, no. Um Honestly, I don't know. I think that your plan is good. I like what you said about the whole bracketology thing. Like, let's do that. March Madness is like the one thing that I used to participate in college. I'm not a better. I also don't really keep up throughout the whole year with how people are playing in college basketball. But March Madness, like as soon as those brackets came out, boom, I printed one out, I filled it out, like I was ready to go. Um,
Mhm.
I think that could be a lot of fun with college football. I'm
Yeah.
not gonna lie.
Let's not forget the FCS has a tournament as well. How big is that one again?
Oh, I was gonna
I
say I think it's pretty big.
I want to say it's 32, but I don't want to commit to that. Again, we love doing our research prior to. But continue on. It.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I think that that could be a lot of fun. Also, I mean, like, that's revenue generating because,
It's
I mean,
24. Sorry to interrupt, but 24.
no,
So with
24.
eight
Okay.
eight first round buys, 8 seeded teams. Okay, so it works like all the other NCAA championships outside of the NCAA basketball tournament. But anyway, continue with what you were saying.
But yeah, I mean, like, anything like that, I think that that would be great. It's revenue generating. You can do like the whole bracket thing. What is it? It's TBS. Who does the March Madness online stuff? I mean, like my sorority used to like pay for us to be able to like do all this fun stuff surrounding March Madness. And like there's merch, there's TV contracts, concessions, ticketing, um
Mm-hmm.
there's so much money that could be generated just around that. Like I don't see how it could be bad. I mean, of course, you'll have those people who are purists with football and they don't like change and blah, 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 blah. But I mean, wouldn't you rather just like have an exciting, like every year, you don't know who's like, gonna make it? Like, I just think that that's
Yeah,
way more fun than having like disappointment every single year. Or I mean, I think even worse than disappointment is like not even caring, like when it comes up and it pops up on your phone notifications on ESPN that like Clemson and Alabama are playing each other again. Like indifference, I think, is worse. You want
I
people to
agree.
either be disappointed or happy or sad or whatever, because emotion is what gets people to like buy into something. That's the whole
Mm-hmm.
reason why, like, during the Super Bowl, you get those really emotional commercials for Audi or like whatever. It's because it buys people buy into emotion and they'll want to buy an Audi because Audi made them feel something. Um, so I don't know. That's my 2 cents on it,
Mm-hmm.
but I agree. I think that we should do the brackets. I think that something needs to be changed. And hopefully, if anybody at the NCAA is listening to this, I mean, feel free, take all the credit. We don't need anything. We just want to be entertained again.
Well, it's not our idea. It's not our idea at all. That's the
It's
thing
their
that's so
idea.
ridiculous is it's their idea. But it doesn't need to be 24 teams like the FCS, and it doesn't need to be
No.
68 like basketball.
I'd be happy with 16.
I think 16 is even too many. I think 8 is perfect. Just go with the 8.
8's fine.
Put the
sure.
buys where you need them and go with the 8. But the March Madness makes 75% of the NCAA's revenue and nearly $1 billion every year. They cracked $1 billion in 2018. So
let's make
come
2
on.
billion.
Yeah, let's take a little page out of your own book and apply it somewhere else, because we're all tired of this, and that's about all I have to say about it. But it's ridiculous.
Yeah. And I think that that's probably where we're going to end our podcast. It's ridiculous, and we want change, and we want it now.
Alabama plays Clemson, and Clemson wins a close one. That's my prediction.
Okay, well, we will be watching out for that. January 1st, we got the Peach Bowl, 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time, Cincinnati versus Georgia. January 1st, Rose Bowl, Alabama versus Notre Dame, 5 p.m. Eastern. Sugar Bowl, Clemson versus Ohio State, 8:45 p.m. Eastern. And then, of course, the Fiesta Bowl and the Orange Bowl on the 2nd, with the Cotton Bowl before those on December 30th. But we will be trying to tune in, hopefully, if we can stand it, to some of those. And we look forward to hitting you guys up next week with another great podcast. So thank you for tuning in, and we will see you later.